The false bride said to Prince Edward, "Dearest husband, I beg you to grant me a favor." He replied, "Of course." "Then let the butcher cut off the head of the horse I rode here because—" Once upon a time, there was an elderly queen named Agnes, who had been a widow for many years. She had a lovely daughter named Rose. When Rose grew up, she was engaged to a prince named Edward, who lived far away. As the wedding day approached, and Rose was about to leave for a foreign land, her mother Agnes gave her many expensive gifts, including gold and silver ornaments, and all sorts of royal accessories, because she loved her daughter very much. She also gave her a maid named Emily, who was to accompany her and introduce her to the prince. Each of them was given a horse for the journey. Rose's horse was named Thunder, and it could talk. As the departure time approached, Agnes went to her room, took a small knife, and cut her fingers until they bled. She then held a white cloth under them, letting 3 drops of blood fall onto it. She gave this to Rose, saying, "My dear child, take good care of this cloth. It may be useful to you on your journey." They said a tearful goodbye to each other, and Rose, with the cloth pinned to her dress, mounted her horse and set off on her journey to Prince Edward's kingdom. After about an hour of riding, Rose started to feel very thirsty. She said to her maid Emily, "Please get down and fetch me some water in my golden cup from that stream over there. I need a drink." "If you're thirsty," Emily replied, "get off your horse, lie down by the water, and drink. I'm not going to be your servant anymore." Rose was so thirsty that she got off her horse, bent over the stream, and drank, as she wasn't allowed to drink from the golden cup. As she drank, she murmured, "Heaven, what am I to do?" And the 3 drops of blood replied, "If your mother only knew, her heart would surely break in 2. But Rose was gentle and didn't say anything about Emily's rude behavior. She quietly got back on her horse. They continued their journey for several miles, but the day was hot and the sun's rays were harsh, so Rose soon became thirsty again. As they passed a brook, she once again asked Emily, "Please get down and give me a drink from my golden cup," as she had long forgotten Emily's rude words. But Emily replied, even more arrogantly than before, "If you want a drink, you can get off your horse and get it yourself. I'm not going to be your servant." Then Rose, compelled by her thirst, had to get off her horse, bend over the flowing water, and drink. As she did so, she cried out, "Oh, heaven, what am I to do?" And the 3 drops of blood replied, "If your mother only knew, her heart would surely break in 2. And as she drank and leaned over the water, the cloth containing the 3 drops of blood fell from her dress and floated down the stream. In her distress, she didn't even notice her loss. But Emily had seen it with delight, knowing that it gave her power over Rose. For by losing the drops of blood, Rose had become weak and powerless. When Rose wanted to get back on her horse Thunder, Emily called out, "I'm going to ride Thunder. You must ride my horse." And Rose had to submit to this. Then Emily harshly ordered her to take off her royal clothes and put on her ordinary ones. Finally, she made Rose swear by heaven not to say a word about what had happened when they reached the palace. If Rose hadn't taken this oath, she would have been killed on the spot. But Thunder saw everything and remembered it all. Emily now rode Thunder, and Rose rode the inferior horse. They continued their journey until they finally arrived at the palace courtyard. There was great rejoicing over their arrival, and Prince Edward rushed forward to meet them. Taking Emily for his bride, he helped her down from her horse and led her upstairs to the royal chamber. Meanwhile, the real bride, Rose, was left standing in the courtyard. The old king, who was looking out of his window, saw her standing there and was struck by her sweet and gentle beauty. He immediately went to the royal chamber and asked the bride who the girl was that she had brought with her and left standing in the courtyard. "Oh," replied the bride, "I brought her with me to keep me company on the journey. Give the girl something to do so she won't be idle." But the old king had no work for her and couldn't think of anything. "So," he said, "I have a young boy who takes care of the geese. She can help him." The boy's name was Sam, and Rose was made to help him herd geese. Soon after this, the false bride said to Prince Edward, "Dearest husband, I beg you to grant me a favor." He replied, "Of course." "Then let the butcher cut off the head of the horse I rode here because it behaved very badly on the journey." But the truth was, she was afraid that the horse might speak and tell how she had treated Rose. She got her way, and the faithful Thunder was sentenced to death. When Rose heard the news, she went to the butcher and secretly promised him a piece of gold if he would do something for her. There was a large dark gate in the town, which she had to pass through morning and evening with the geese. Would he kindly hang Thunder's head there so she could see it again? The butcher said he would do as she wished, chopped off the head and nailed it firmly over the gateway. Early the next morning, as she and Sam were driving their flock through the gate, she said, as she passed under, "Oh, Thunder, it's you hanging there." And the head replied, "It's you, fair Princess Rose. If your mother only knew, her heart would surely break in two." Then she left the gate and drove the geese into a field. When they reached the common where the geese grazed, she sat down and let down her hair, which was pure gold. Sam loved to see it glitter in the sun and wanted to pull some hair out. Then she spoke. "Wind, wind, gently sway, blow Sam's hat away. Let him chase over field and hill until my locks of golden frill, now astray and hanging down, are combed and plaited in a crown." Then a gust of wind blew Sam's hat away, and he had to chase it over hill and dale. When he returned from the chase, she had finished combing and curling her hair, and he had no chance of getting any hair. Sam was very angry and wouldn't speak to her, so they herded the geese until evening and then went home. The next morning, as they passed under the gate, Rose said, "Oh, Thunder, it's you hanging there." And the head replied, "It's you, fair Princess Rose. If your mother only knew, her heart would surely break in two." Then she went on her way until she came to the common, where she sat down and began to comb out her hair. Then Sam ran up to her and wanted to grab some of the hair from her head, but she quickly called out, "Wind, wind, gently sway, blow Sam's hat away. Let him chase over field and hill, until my locks of golden frill, now astray and hanging down, are combed and plaited in a crown." Then a gust of wind came and blew Sam's hat far away, so he had to run after it. When he returned, she had long finished arranging her golden locks, and he couldn't get any hair. So they watched the geese until it was dark. But that evening when they got home, Sam went to the old king and said, "I refuse to herd geese any longer with that girl." "Why?" asked the old king. "Because "She does nothing but annoy me all day long," replied Sam. And he proceeded to tell all about her behavior, saying, "Every morning, as we drive the flock through the dark gate, she says to a horse's head that hangs on the wall, 'Oh, thunder, it's you hanging there.' And the head replies, 'It's you, fair Princess Rose. If your mother only knew, her heart would surely break in two.'" And Sam went on to tell what happened on the common, where the geese grazed, and how he always had to chase his hat. The old king told him to go and drive the flock out, as usual, the next day. When morning came, the king himself took up a position behind the dark gate and heard how Rose greeted Thunder. Then he followed her to the field and hid behind a bush on the common. He soon saw with his own eyes how Sam and Rose looked after the geese, and how, after a while, Rose sat down and let down her hair, which glittered like gold, and repeated, "Wind, wind, gently sway, blow Sam's hat away. Let him chase over field and hill, until my locks of golden frill, now astray and hanging down, are combed and plaited in a crown." Then a gust of wind came and blew Sam's hat away, so he had to run over hill and dale after it. In the meantime, Rose quietly combed and plaited her hair. The old king observed all this and returned to the palace without anyone noticing him. In the evening, when Rose came home, he called her aside and asked her why she behaved as she did. "I can't tell you why. How can I confide my troubles to anyone? I swore by heaven not to, otherwise I would have lost my life." The old king begged her to tell. The real princess told him everything. Then he summoned his son and revealed to him that he had got the false bride, who was nothing but a waiting maid, while the real one, in the guise of the ex-goose girl, was standing at his side. The young king rejoiced from his heart when he saw her beauty and learned how good she was, and a great banquet was prepared, to which everyone was bidden. The bridegroom sat at the head of the table, the princess on one side of him, and the waiting maid on the other, but she was so dazzled that she did not recognize the princess in her glittering garments. Now when they had eaten and drunk, and were merry, the old king asked the waiting maid to solve a knotty point for him. "What," said he, "should be done to a certain person who's deceived everyone?" And he proceeded to relate the whole story, ending up with, "Now, what sentence should be passed?" Then the false bride answered, "She deserves to be put stark naked into a barrel lined with sharp nails, which should be dragged by 2 white horses up and down the street till she is dead." "You are the person," said the king, "and you have passed sentence on yourself, and even so it shall be done to you." And when the sentence had been carried out, the young king was married to his real bride, and both reigned over the kingdom in peace and happiness. Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts in comments below. Kindly like, share, and subscribe my channel for more interesting and inspiring stories.